Shalom, good to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Shem Yahweh Shai. Thou wantest the elders and apostles, the great millstone, will do rule and teach well. Shemash One Ban Yahweh here. Today we're going to be talking about the Great Assembly, Wikipedia. We're just going to read pretty much, everything here, and I'll read something out of the Halley's Bible Handbook, and that'll pretty much be that. So the Great Assembly, I don't really know what that is in the Hebrew, but I think it's the same thing as the bottom piece here, which looks like a Kanasat, I don't know, I honestly don't know the rest of it. I could honestly go look, but I'm not gonna bother. I don't want to butcher it. But you see here, it was an assembly of 120 scribes, sages, and prophets, which existed from the Second Temple period around 516 BC to the early Hellenistic period, which began with Alexander's conquest, 333 to 332 BCE, roughly coinciding with the Persian hegemony over Israel. Over the nation of Israel. A nation's assembly member known as the Anashia, like Kanasat. I don't really know the rest, so I'll maybe get into that one on another lesson, and may get into it tomorrow, because tomorrow at sundown is the Shabbat, so I may make that my Shabbat lesson. And traditionally included such figures as Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, Ezra, Nehemiah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, Mordecai, and Zerubbabel. Among the developments in Judaism that are attributed to the rabbis of this period, which rabbi, which basically means like teacher, that term wasn't used until like round about the Maccabean time period, I believe. I don't know what they called them before, but I guess technically you could call them, rabbis or teacher, but Yahushua didn't really want us to use those kind of words. Just think of each other as brothers, which is what we are. And you have brothers, elders, leaders, so on and so forth. And I'm not having, respect, but, don't lord over people. That's pretty much what it is, what it's about. Among the developments in Judaism, which just means way of the Jews, Judaizos, I believe that's how you say it in the Greek. I don't know how to say it in the Hebrew. That's a good idea to look into. I say Judaism in the Hebrew, because that's all it means, the way of the Jews. And there's nothing wrong with Judaism. That's just our ways. It's just the way that the so-called contemporary Jewry does it. They're more based around the Talmud and Mishnah, and more kind of like 2nd century on down writings of various rabbis and rabbinical interpretations, and they're less about the scriptures and things like that. They're not really into all that. They're into other stuff like that whole Babylonian mystery school shit, the Kabbalah. They're into a lot of extra stuff that is unnecessary and to be frank, quite profane, such as the stuff found within the Talmud, stuff like that, circumcising babies with mouths, they have their own messianic prophecies. I believe Chabad Lubavitch, they have their own messianic prophecy, which is fucking wild. You could go look that up on your own time, but I think they say there's two messiahs and then they merge into one or something. It's some wild stuff. I saw a video about it. Maybe I'll check that out at a later date and go put them on blast. So right among the developments of Judaism that are attributed to rabbis of this period are leaders or teachers. Well, the fixture, the Jewish biblical canon, including the book of Ezekiel, Daniel, and Esther, and the 12 minor prophets, introduction of the Feast of Purim, and institution of many prayers and rituals, including the Amidah prayer. Now, I don't know if that's actually true about this Ahmadiyya prayer. Now, what it says is interesting. Is there's a prayer that was to be said, basically like 3 times a day. And we know about the Feast of Purim already, right? That's kind of self-explanatory, right? But the Ahmadiyya prayer um, was, which really, I guess you could say, with the institution that already began. I don't really know why they said that. The institution of Purim already began, but Ahmadiyya prayer we could go take a look at. They said, "Is this a prayer that you say every, 3 daily prayer services in a typical weekday morning? So, say every afternoon, morning, afternoon, and evening, and on the Sabbaths you say it extra time." I don't really know about it. I haven't really heard the elders mention it, and I don't really know the words of it either. So I don't know if that's actually true or not. I'm not really gonna, get into all that. But my point of kind of bringing all this stuff out, because when you go into here, this is the book of not the book. This is Halley's Bible Handbook, page 410, the Great Synagogue, or the Great Assembly. Synagogue basically means assembly. This is the name of the council consisting of 120 members, said to have been organized by Nehemiah around 410 BC under the presidency of Ezra for the purpose of reconstructing the religious life of the returned captives. It's been a continuing body governing the returned Jews to about 275 BC. It is said to have an important part in gathering, grouping, and restoring the canonical books of the Old Testament. Right, because you had the temple destroyed. We spent all these years in Babylon, and now here we are. We came back, and now we have to reconstruct everything and get everything back. To give you brothers a rough a rough kind of idea of everything. This is Halley's Bible Handbook again, page 229. Page 229, it says 536 BC, there were 3 returns. 536 BC, Zerubbabel with 42,360 Jews, 7,337 servants, 200 singers, 736 horses, 245 mules, 435 camels, 6,720 asses, and 5,400 gold and silver vessels. Right, he came back. Then in 457, you had Ezra with 1,754 males, 100 talents of gold, 750 talents of silver, not stated where the women and children went. It took about 4 months, and obviously this is before we had planes and stuff, right? 444 BC, Nehemiah, as governor with an army escort, went to rebuild and fortify Jerusalem at government expense, right? And you have the overall chronology of the restoration. 536 BC, right, which is around about the time of Cyrus. You have 49,897 returned from Babylon to Jerusalem. Then you have 436 BC, 7th month, they rebuilt the altar and offered sacrifice. 535 BC, work on the temple begun and stopped, right? Which we know, I believe they say that it is around the time of Cambyses with that whole letter by Sanballat and I think it was Tomiah. And people were basically making deals with them and making marriages with them. Now it's kind of like, I believe it was Ezra who spoke against that and said that shit gotta go. 520 BC, work renewed by Haggai, Zechariah. 516 BC, temple completed. 478 BC, Esther becomes queen of Persia. And then see, it kind of lines up with this being set up, with Nehemiah, as we're going to read here, rebuilding the wall, around about 444 BC. Ezra goes from Babylon to Jerusalem, 457, and 444 BC. Nehemiah rebuilds the wall, and you see 532 BC, Nehemiah returns again from Babylon, right? And you see here Nehemiah, turn 444. BC, around about that time period, right? And what I found particularly interesting, made me think of when I, kind of stumbled upon this while reading, because this takes place after the book of Nehemiah. But I see it towards the end. You have Nehemiah 7 and 8, public reading of the book of the law. That the wall was built, Nehemiah and Ezra gathered the people to organize their natural life. Chapter 7 is about the same as Ezra 2, giving a list of those who returned to Jerusalem nearly 100 years before. There's certain genealogical matters that had to be attended to. I believe this is where you have the priests, the people that wanted to be priests, but they couldn't prove it, that they were the line of Levi through the line of their fathers. Then for 7 days, every day from morning till midday, Ezra and his helpers opened the book of the law and read in the law of the Most High distinctly, and gave the sense so that the people understood the reading. This public reading and exposition of the Most High's book brought a great wave of repentance among the people, a great revival, and a solemn covenant to keep the law, as noted in chapters 9 and 10. Right? So, they brought it back to kind of call the people back into repentance at the end of Ezra, the 10th chapter. Ezra, he had to get the people to stop, with all the intermarriages between these other nations, between these Persian women and stuff like that. And I believe he told them to get rid of the children. Now he did tell them, get rid of the children, so then you can focus on your repentance and coming back, because that was all the way off, them making marriages. So he said, send away your wives and your children, And then we'll skip on down to chapter 13, close of Nehemiah's work. Correction of laxities about tithes, Sabbaths, and mixed marriages. Nehemiah was governor of Judah at least 12 years, right? You have Nehemiah 5 and 14 tells you that. Josephus says that he lived to a great age and governed Judah the rest of his life, and pretty much, later on after the end of the book, he, assembles the Great Assembly to pretty much, add all these figures together, and then also adding the books of the minor prophets, which are added into here, Joel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, So it all goes back to the same thing, pretty much the rebuilding of the nation. And this is something that takes place, pretty much, right after Nehemiah, if you want to argue there. But there's some estimates that kind of put it a little bit later. I think Halley's Bible Handbook puts it a little bit at a later date, like 410 BC. But, round about that, right about that time period. So, Lowell and Yedified, and, Shalom.